Hello everyone and welcome to another Fight of the Night review. This was for the fight of the night between Trevin Giles and the James Krause, yes, that James Krause, at UFC 247 at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. And a couple of facts before this fight sort of came together. James Krause wasn't the original opponent. The original opponent was, who was it? It was Youssef something. Antonio Arroyo. But he was replaced by James Krause, who stepped up on 1 day's notice. And not only that, but he had to move up the weight division because James Krause is normally welterweight. He sort of went up to middleweight. He was a bit under the weight limit, but James Krause is already in Houston anyway to corner a different fighter, so worked out well for him. As did this fight. This fight was really good, even though Trevin Giles did win. I mean, props to James Krause, just first and foremost, because he deserves it. Because he's really good. I am a pretty big fan of his. I would consider that to be not really a fact, but like, I do like him a lot. So yeah, pretty big fan. I guess covers it. So as always, sorry for my rambling. We're going to go through the fight round by round. I'm going to try my best to tell you what happened if I thought that the ending decision was the correct one, because this fight did go the distance. And yeah, we're just going to see how it goes. So round one, pretty sort of simple and straightforward was round one, which is probably why I liked it so much. Trevin Giles is the much bigger guy, even though James Krause is taller and has a longer reach. Trevin Giles immediately wants to go for his bread and butter, which is his strikes. And he lands a good couple of them before James Krause catches him in a clinch and takes him down. Sort of takes him down, and he manages to get his back against the cage. And then he sinks in a beautiful looking rear naked choke. And he sinks in the body hooks, and Trevin Giles is fighting his ass off to defend it, and he does a really good job. He showcases great wrist control. He manages to get a couple of punches in on James, and this was a moment in the fight as well where I was sort of wondering how the judges would see it, because James Krause was on his back technically, but he did sort of have the rear naked choke position on Trevin Giles, and technically, Trevin Giles is on top, but he's the one having damage done to him. He's the one in the powerless position. So it is a bit strange to sort of view that. But all in all, I think James Krause won round one, even though he didn't get the submission. It took a long time for Trevin Giles to even break away from it, but he was showing good defense regardless. There was a great moment where he managed to turn around and get on top of James. He landed some good ground and pounds, but James eventually did manage to sort of switch it up. I would give round one to James Krause personally. I feel like he did more work, but Trevin Giles, he showed amazing defense against the submission, and I thought it was really, really good stuff. Round two, however, James Krause was definitely starting to feel a bit more tired because of how much energy he exerted trying to get that submission over Trevin in round one. But it was still a fairly close round. Trevin Giles obviously sort of took round two, I think. It was mostly more of a stand-up round. Trevin Giles landed some really good strikes against Krause. Landed some really big hands. Trevin Giles landed some really amazing looping hooks that I thought would have knocked James Krause out, but he managed to stick with it. There was a moment where Giles landed a really good head kick too. And yeah, it was just really good showcasing for Trevin Giles' round two. He landed some really big shots. James Krause did eventually get another takedown, but once again, it was sort of only a matter of time before Trevin Giles managed to get on top, and once again land a fair bit of ground and pound. He did have James Krause sort of on his knees at the end of round two as well. He landed a big shot and was he had a good sprawl position on Krause after he got out of the takedown, and he was landing big shots, and the referee was he looked like he was close to topping it, and then because Trevin Giles was so dominant at this point, he took James Krause's back and he went for a rear naked choke, and he flattened out James Krause. He sunk in the choke fully as the round ended. I honestly feel like if there were 15, 20 more seconds, James Krause might have tapped out, because it looked like it was in really deep. But Krause, props to him, managed to pull through. Luckily for him, the round did end. But yeah, round two is definitely where Trevin Giles started pulling away with the fight, and I'd definitely give the majority of it to Trevin. Round three, both men are obviously a lot more tired. James Krause exuded, he let out a lot of energy in round 1. Trevin Giles let out a lot of energy in round 2. Round 3 started with some really good strikes from James Krause, surprisingly. He landed a calf kick that seemed to have damaged Trevin, and Trevin tried to sort of pass it off because he just simply went, woo! Like, to sort of show that he wasn't hurting, even though he clearly was, because throughout the rest of the round, the rest of the fight even, he was limping a little bit on his left leg. He wasn't trying to put too much weight on it, because that was the one that got kicked. But, and there's another thing as well I forgot to mention. The commentary were quick to point out, and frequent to point out, the fact that James Krause took the site on 1 day's notice, didn't have a training camp set up. Barely, he didn't really make the weight either. But he still stepped up, and, even though I did sort of mention that at the start of the video, I didn't really mention the full circumstances, so, yeah, what better time than the final round to bring it up. Once again, props to James Krause, he's the fucking man. And, yeah, he like really stepped up to the plate in round 3, landed a really good kick. He started landing some more punches off his own, but Trevin Giles, this is where Trevin Giles' style started to get a bit more simple. He was just simply trying to land more big shots. Some of them did actually land on James Krause, who I can only imagine didn't really dodge or do a lot of head movement, except for near the end of the round. Mostly because of the fact that James Krause was just really exhausted by this point. That is a valid reason for not moving around much. You just, 1 day's notice, not a lot of energy going for you, not, you don't have time to work on your conditioning, but stepped up anyway. And Giles was still obviously limping on his leg, but he was still putting some decent power into his shots, and there was a moment where Krause landed a head kick. There wasn't really as much grappling in this one until Giles sort of had... There was a moment, actually, where Giles was against the cage. He was against the cage, and Krause went for a shot, but Giles managed to slip and land a beautiful right hand to this part. That's where it goes, the right hand, usually. It's weird doing it like that. And it clocked James Krause, and that was near the end of the round, but Krause managed to recover. He sort of took the clinch, he landed a really good knee in the clinch, but Giles was landing bigger shots, and once again I give round 3, the majority of round 3 to Giles, and I feel like Giles did absolutely win the split decision. I thought this was a super entertaining, really enjoyable fight. It was full of memorable moments, it had a really great pacing to it. Really glad... Yeah, just really glad to see James Krause fight, even though he's not got the best record in the UFC. The fact that he stepped up was brilliant, and the fact that Trevin Giles was thankful at the fact that James Krause stepped up, because Giles was doubtful he was even going to get a fight on the card because of Antonio Arroyo having to pull out. So, Krause, he did a really cool thing, even though it was on 1 day's notice. I do like that he did what he did, so, good shit. As for if you would like to see the fight, I'd recommend you check it out. This was a really, really good... This was a fight of the night worthy fight, at the very least. I super enjoyed it. Both men implemented their game plans well. There was only one winner at the end of the day. I thought it was super good. Could fall in my top 10 of the year, probably. I just really liked it. Anyway, that's the video about over. I'll see you tomorrow and the day after that for the very brief history and then the actual backtracking episode of Flyleaf. And obviously Tuesday is going to be the next PBW card as well. So, yeah. I'm really glad to be streaming that again, by the way. And I'll see you all for the very brief history of Flyleaf tomorrow. As always, thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye-bye. Also have cats. I'm making it a rule in 2020, by the way, whenever my cat's here, I'm going to show them to you at the very least. Very briefly. But, see you in the next video. Bye.